Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. US Family Office identifies hidden issues XRP investors could face even if XRP hits $100. Okay guys, let's get into it. Okay, so let's have a conversation about this, because there's a few things that I want to address about this, and I think there's a few things here where I think there's a lot you can basically take from this. Okay, so the thing for me about this, when I look at what this is talking about here, it's all about just preparation, right? Because look, where we are in the market right now, I don't know what's going to happen. I've said it numerous times on a few of my videos. I don't know where we are. I don't know if we're going into a bull market or a bear market. I'm not sure, right? But let's talk about if we are in, let's just say, our ideal scenario, which is we're going to have a recovery, we're going to have alt season, and XRP is going to hit brand new all-time highs, and it's going to be incredible. And, you know, you've got a lot of money now. You've got a lot of wealth on you, right? So, look, the first thing I'll say is, you know, when we're talking $100, just in my opinion, we're talking long term. I'm not talking about that for this cycle, but let's just go into the hypothetical, right? Let's just go into this dream-based scenario where XRP did hit $100 for this cycle. Again, I don't think that's likely for this cycle. I think double digits is likely, not triple digits personally, but let's go with that thought process, right? Okay, so what the first thing they're saying here is, what you've got to worry about is tax implications, right? So obviously, this is one thing that someone says to me before, like, let's just say you sell your XRP and you make $1 million. Well, as soon as you pay out the tax, you're no longer a millionaire, right? Because you might have $1 million, but then you've got to pay the tax. So that takes you straight under the $1 million. So you're no longer a millionaire, right? And so the thing that you've got to understand is, obviously, the more money you make, the more tax you're going to have to pay. So straight away, that's something that you're going to have to, you know, look into. Okay. So this is something where, for me, I think, you know, about preparation again, right? So what can you do in regards to preparing for the tax consequences? Well, look, first and foremost, let me make this clear. I'm no financial advisor, so I'm only giving you the basics that I can think of the top of my head. You guys really do need to do your own research on this kind of stuff, because I'm in no position to give you guys, you know, any kind of legal, you know, consultation in regards to this or anything like that. But the things that you want to do is obviously look at, like, what's the things that you can do legally to pay the least amount of money, right? Because you should be paying your tax. Like, I'm not here to tell you guys you should be tax evading or anything like that, but you can do things that can lower how much you have to pay. To me, I think the best thing you can do, and again, I'm in no position to give advice, but this, for me, I just think is probably the easiest way, is to speak to an actual solicitor, like a tax advisor, you know, who can give you the breakdown. Now, are they going to cost? Yes, but if it's going to save you however much money in the long term, what you're paying out is a small fee in the actual long scheme of things. So you're paying money for the solicitor, but you're going to save a lot more in the long run, right? So that's what I would think personally that I would do. Again, it's up to you guys what you want to do, but you need to just look at what things you can do legally to lower the tax down as much as possible. You know, there's different things that you can do as well, where you can look at, like, building up an LLC and stuff like that, or, you know, putting assets into a trust and things like that. So these are the kind of things that you want to look and research into, or speak with a financial advisor to try and see what things you can do to try and lower down the tax implications that you have to pay, right? Okay. So the next thing that they were talking about is how, when you are a crypto holder, the IRS put out some guidance a few years back, and it's basically saying that, you know, crypto is classed as property, not currency. And so what they're saying that means is, if, let's just say, you were to get sued, right, and you were to lose that lawsuit, they can ask you to declare whatever assets you have, right? And so your crypto, your XRP, would be classed as an asset that you have. And so if you lose this lawsuit, you could actually be forced to, you know, relinquish some of that XRP. So they could say, well, you know, we're going to fine you, let's just say $10,000. So if you haven't got the money to pay that yourself, we need to look at what assets you have. And if they see, like, well, you've got at least 10,000 worth of XRP, yeah, we're going to take that amount so they can get that $10,000 that you owe from this lawsuit. So basically what they're saying is they can obviously take some of your wealth, some of your XRP. Again, this is when it comes down to, you know, trying to protect your assets, putting it in things like a trust or an LLC, that kind of stuff. Because if it's not in those kinds of things, then it's classed as an asset that you possess, right? But if you can put it into like an LLC, for example, it can actually be classed as it's not your asset because it's in the company, not in your name. Now, again, I'm giving you very basic stuff here. This isn't like legally sound, so please do your own research. Don't just take what I'm saying here as gospel because I don't know the full ins and outs of it. You need to do proper research or speak with an actual, you know, a legal advisor who can actually, you know, give you the proper ins and outs of this. I'm talking very vaguely here. I know this is very surface level. I don't know it too in depth to be able to give people legal advice on this, but that's definitely something that you could look into doing. Okay. And this is the other thing, just in general, like when you know, become rich, and this can really go for more than just the US, like, but you definitely can go for the US in terms of lawsuits, because I know in America it's very easy to like slap a lawsuit on someone. You got to understand that when you are like rich and wealthy, you're a target, just in general, right? Now that could be, you know, friends wanting to sue you all of a sudden, or it could just be people on the street who want to sue you because they can see that you are wealthy, or it could be, you know, they want to rob you. It could be that people see that you've got wealth and you're clearly flashing the cash. You know, you're rolling up to the shops in like a Lamborghini, and then you've got all these chains on and stuff like that, and you just, you know, throwing out dollar bills everywhere. Like, you know, it's that kind of thing where like if you're showing that you've got all this wealth on display, yeah, there's going to be people who will probably see that and they would want to take that from you. So this is where, again, it's just about being careful, right? Like being cautious. Like, to me, I don't think if you are someone who's wealthy, I don't really think it's a good idea to be just demonstrating that wealth to everybody, to be honest with you. Like, there's many horror stories of how we've seen actual people who are crypto millionaires, etc., who've ended up, you know, getting like kidnapped and things like that, and even killed for their money, right? So like you really have got to be careful with this stuff, you know, like, and this is where I do think people need to prepare for, like, if they do become wealthy from this, like I do think they need to have a certain type of mind state to understand how to manage this wealth and how to just be cautious and try to avoid getting into the pitfalls of what wealth can bring. Like, a lot of people look at having money as just this great thing, like there's no downside to it. Like there's pitfalls, right? There's potential things where you'll have new worries and concerns, right? And it could be your actual safety, your life, because people can see you have a lot of money, and, you know, even friends and family. Like, money can cause division in many ways, right? So you could even have friends and family who you're falling out with over money. So you need to really just be careful with how you manage this and how you deal with it. So obviously that's up to you guys how you want to treat that. Like, obviously if you guys are people who just want to do what you want to do and you want to ball out, then okay, cool. That's your choice. I'm just saying, you know, word of warning, just be careful, because this could cause, you know, bigger implications that you might realize at the time, right? Okay, and the last thing I just wanted to say, and this is more of my own thing, this is something that I've looked at from my own research, to be honest with you, but I just thought I'd add this on as a little bonus thing, and that is in regards to if you don't want to sell, for example, from a tax perspective. Another thing that you could do at this point now is taking out like a loan with your XRP as collateral, right? And this is what the rich do. You know, what the rich do is they have, for example, like stocks and stuff. They have like a stock portfolio of shares and stuff that they have. It's worth like millions or billions, whatever. And then they just borrow against those assets. They borrow against their stock portfolio, right? And the thing is with that, the positive about it is when you borrow against the portfolio, you're taking out a debt. So you actually don't have to pay any tax on that because it's actually a debt, right? So you don't pay tax on debt. And so what they do is they borrow against their portfolios, and then they use that money to live on and also make more money and then pay back that loan. And they just keep doing the same thing. They just keep refinancing the loan, and they're basically living off of the money tax free, and they're not losing any of their portfolio, right? Because they're paying back the loan and then refinancing the loan and getting another loan out again. So they just continuously live on tax-free money, right? So this is actually something that's now come to the crypto space. There are actually companies now where you can use XRP as collateral for a loan. So this is something that you can do. Once again, please do your own due diligence if you are thinking of doing this. Again, I only know the basics, so I'm only giving you rough stuff here. You need to really understand it for yourselves and understand what you're doing and what you're putting at risk, because this is where I'll just explain one of the downfalls, right? What you have got to understand with taking out these loans, there is actual chance that you could lose the XRP, right? So there are like liquidation triggers. And so this is why in this market, it is kind of dangerous, to be honest with you. So let's just say, for example, you took out a loan with XRP when it was like $3.10, for example, right? Well, at this point, you'd probably have lost the XRP because now it's down to like $1.96 or $1.92, something like that. So you probably would have got liquidated at this point. Now, there are some that will do things where like they'll give you a warning and say, look, you know, your XRP has gone down in value, and they'll give you the opportunity to either put up some more XRP as more collateral to save it, or you can give cash. They'll say, look, if you can just give us money to cover the loss of where you are, then you can keep the XRP. That's fine. But I don't know if there's like limits, like triggers where kind of like a stop loss, where if it goes below a certain amount, it's just like, we're not asking no questions. We're just liquidating the XRP, right? That's again something that you need to look into. But if that is the case, well, you lose the XRP in the end, right? So you've took the gamble and you've lost. The other thing about that is, I do believe that if you do hit that liquidation event, it's no longer a tax-free loan, right? It actually just gets classed as a sale now, because you took it out as a loan originally, but because you've not been able to cover the liquidation, they've just sold it off. So they now class that as a taxable event because the crypto has been sold to cover off what they lost from the XRP going down in value, right? So there is that risk element there. And so this is where with the whole loan thing, I think it is great if you can make it work, but I do think with crypto it's a bit tricky right now because it's so volatile. So you can have these kinds of swings where it can go like 10-20% in like a day and stuff like that. It can get bad, right? Like if we look at the October 10th liquidation event, that huge event that we had, like look at how quick all that happened and everything just went to pot just from that one thing. So this is where you have to be careful with crypto and using it as a collateral. I do think this is still something that you can consider, but again, you've got to be smart with it, right? Because you have got to understand that, you can get liquidated and you can lose the XRP. It's not guaranteed. And if that happens, you still do need to pay the tax. So understand all that. That's something that obviously you need to look into, but definitely something that is an option. Maybe it might be a thing where as like XRP in the crypto market matures more and it becomes a bit more stable, because that's what eventually will happen, right? Like the crypto market will get a lot more stable like stocks as more and more value goes into it. Eventually you won't keep getting these multipliers like we do in these bull runs, because it's diminishing returns, right? The more value that goes in, the more value it takes to make it rise higher up in value. And so eventually it'll get boring like the stock market. And so when it maybe gets like that, maybe that's when you'll feel more comfortable to do the loans, because you won't be seeing these big drops of like 10-20% or anything like that anymore, right? Now, just a quick one as well. There is an upside to the volatility too. Let's just say you took out a loan of XRP in like the bear market, and let's just say you did it now where it was at like $1.92 or something like that. Let's say you then go into a bull market. Well, what can happen is you don't even need to pay the loan back, because what they'll say is, well, the XRP has gone up in so much value that you've got enough here to cover off the loan anyway. So what they will do then is you can either cover off the loan with the value that XRP has gone up in, and that's fine, and you get your XRP back with whatever's left after you've covered the loan, or they'll actually ask if you want to borrow more. Like they'll say, well, it's gone so much more up in value that if you want to borrow more with the XRP you have, you can, because it's gone up higher in value. So those are two positives as well to the upside that you can get. So it isn't just negatives, but again, you've got to understand the risks in this, right? And so, yeah, I think overall what this is all about, what I'm just trying to show you guys is, we don't know where we're heading right now, but I do think just in general, it's good to have a plan. It's good to look into these things and know what you're going to do when this time does come, because eventually it's going to happen. Like eventually we will have price action. Now, I don't know if it's done for this cycle. Maybe it is. Maybe you have to wait for the next cycle for it to really go up, or maybe we're about to recover and we'll have the alt season that we're all hoping for. But whatever is the case, I think at some point, who knows when, at some point in the future, XRP is going to continue to rise in value. And you are going to have that moment where you have to make a decision, right? You have to decide, okay, what do I want to do with this asset? Do I want to sell it and understand that there's tax implications? Do I want to take out a loan? If I do sell it, am I willing to put it in an LLC to protect it? All these decisions. So for me, I think having a plan now is the best way, because being prepared is always going to beat like doing things off the cuff, like when it's just happened. Because, first and foremost, you got to deal with the fact that you've got life-changing wealth. So that's like a huge thing that you've got to get your head around. But then you've got to make all these decisions, right? And it's like, it's all happening in real time and so fast. So it's going to be a lot more difficult to comprehend it. Whereas if you've got things in place already, then I think it'll just be a lot easier for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, it'll be a lot easier to just, say, okay, this is what I intend to do. Let's go with that plan. It's already there in place. I just act that out and then I'm sorted. Do you know what I mean? And I think you'll thank yourself for it, in the long term, knowing that you was already ready and prepared for it rather than having to figure it all out as it actually happens. So I thought I'd share this with you because, again, I just think regardless of where we are in the market, you want to be prepared for the future. That to me is just, smart thinking. So I hope this has helped, and I hope this has given you guys some things to research on to obviously make your decision of what you want to do ultimately for when that time does come with XRP. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.